My friends, it's a lovely day at Costco, and I don't normally come here on a Sunday. But when Dr. Berg said he's in town and should we make a video at Costco, I said yes. And I said, why don't we walk around the meat and seafood aisles and show people what to buy and what to avoid when it comes to beef, seafood, chicken, and all that stuff. Me and Dr. Berg are gonna break it down right now.
Awesome.
We have a lot of fish options here at Costco. Yeah. But what I love, and I'm sure Dr. Berg loves too, is this salmon here. This is a wild caught salmon. And I think it's really funny to look at the difference between this and this.
Slightly different.
Now, here's the crazy thing. This is farm-raised Norwegian salmon. What's the price per pound for that, Dr. Berg?
That is $11.99 per pound.
The wild caught?
Versus $9.99.
But you're getting superior fish for a cheaper price. This is Norwegian farm raised. A couple of things we talk about a lot. Number one, the color of farm raised is not orange like that. It's actually gray as can be, and they have to add either artificial colors or beta carotene to the feed to make it more pleasurable to our eye. But these farm raised fish live in pens in the ocean that are overcrowded. They're called aquacultures. The feed can be GMO feed like corn and soy, it can be animal byproduct, and sometimes those pens are so crowded they'll put antibiotics in there because they get sea lice. I know it is not as fatty as this, but wild caught is where it's at, and Dr. Berg will tell you why from a nutritional reason.
The biggest reason why we eat salmon, for example, is it's called DHA. That's omega-3 fatty acids. So, because we don't get as enough from regular foods. So this is the best source, one of the best sources of omega-3. And if you get the farm raised, you're not going to get that. So that's one of the reasons, which will feed our brains, our hormones, our heart. It's an anti-inflammatory. And most people have a lot of inflammation, so eat more salmon if you want to drop your inflammation.
Is the omega-6s higher in farm
raised?
Yes.
They actually are starting to spike the omega-3, but they're also spiking the omega-6 like way, way higher than it should be. And those are the ones that are already out of balance. So we really ideally would like a 1-to-1 ratio, but that's hard to get unless you do shellfish or seafood or, cod liver oil, something like that.
Perfect. So nutritionally speaking, superior, better tasting, cheaper.
Oh, yeah.
So just cut it off of the skin here, and because it's lean, I like to add it to a blender with a little bit of avocado and mayonnaise, a little bit of lemon, pan-fried in avocado oil, and you have salmon patties that are budget-friendly and good for you.
I like it.
Costco has a lot of beef. They have beef from all the way down here to here. Now, we were bummed out because we didn't see 100% grass-fed beef here, but sometimes they have it in the frozen section, just not today. And when you're buying regular ground beef like this is 88.12. Yes, it's $4.99 a pound, but this is conventional factory farm beef where the cattle are eating grain. So a nice trade up that all Costco's have is this. So what does it mean that it's organic ground beef? That means, yes, the cattle are still eating grain, but it's non-GMO organic grain, and you're paying a little bit extra. It's $6.24. But Dr. Berg, what's the big difference when the cattle have a feed of GMO, glyphosate-ridden grains like corn and soy versus organic?
It's a step up. It's a step up. So if they don't have it, okay, that's your next best bet. When they come up, when you start having the grains that are organic, you don't get the glyphosate, you don't get the antibiotics, you don't get the other chemicals, so it's cleaner. Ideally, if you could find grass-fed, grass-finished, that would be the ultimate, because then you have all the different plant chemicals that actually end up in the meat. You have the phytonutrients, which are things to keep the animal healthy, and my theory is it also keeps us healthy as well. But in the grain-fed, you don't see that. You don't get those phytonutrients, you just get seeds. So the grass-fed, grass-finished will have so many different things, not just the B vitamins, the zinc, the iron, but also plant-based chemicals, which is really going to be, I think, something that we're going to look more into the future and the benefits of that. So yeah, so whatever you could find, there's different levels, but we want you to differentiate, this from that,
Correct, and if your Costco has it in the frozen aisle, it's under $5 a pound. It's 100% grass-fed, grass-finished, pasture-raised frozen beef patties that you can cook as burgers or meatballs or whatever. And I see this out of the corner of my eye. And I like bison because it's very nutrient dense, but I found that almost all commercially made bison are finished on grain. And what happens when you have a grass-fed animal that you finish the last few months on grain?
You basically just try to marble the fat, but you're spiking the omega-6 fatty acids, and you throw off that whole ratio. So if we're trying to get rid of inflammation, we don't want to do that.
Correct. So it kind of defeats the whole purpose.
Yeah, it kind of nullifies it. But here's one thing. If you end up doing the organic ground-fed beef, you can offset that with the salmon that we just talked about as well, which is high in omega-3 fatty acids. So if you just balance it out, you can kind of neutralize some of the bad effects.
Totally. I know for a fact that Dr. Berg and I don't buy our chicken here. You raise your own. I ordered my pasture-raised chicken online. Well, I do buy this though. This is organic ground turkey. One thing we just noticed, it's not turkey breast, which is very, very lean. It's turkey thigh. How do we know that? It doesn't say thigh on here. We know by this. 93% lean, 7% fat means it's ground turkey thigh. The breast will be 99.1, which is way too lean. And what is the relationship between leaner meat and health?
So this whole push to go low fat, lean, no, like there's something called the insulin index, okay? And it's different than the glycemic index. The insulin index are all the non-carbohydrate things like whey protein powder, eating an egg white versus an egg yolk or the whole egg. So if you have protein with a little more fat, it's not going to be as high on the insulin level, and it's going to help your blood sugars a little bit better. That's why when you use some of the chicken without the skin or without the fat compared to some of the other fatty meats, it's just going to be higher on the glycemic index. It's not a major problem, but it is a little bit of a problem if you're trying to keep that insulin low as possible.
And I have a great recipe for turkey meatloaf that on the blog. I'll put a link down below. And now if you have your choice between organic chicken breast or organic chicken thighs, you want the thighs because a little more fat, like Dr. Berg just said.
And if you don't want to do that, you can always add your fat into it as well. I mean, you don't have to necessarily always try to find something that's really fatty, so you can add it as well in your recipes.
If you saw my top 10 things to buy at Costco in 2024 video the other week, I talked about lamb. And a funny thing, I did a poll on my Instagram story the other day asking how many people have had lamb. And over 40% of people have never had lamb. And I think Dr. Berg and I think you're missing out because lamb is incredibly nutrient dense. But talk about saving money. This is grass-fed, grass-finished rack of lamb from Australia for $12.99 a pound. This at any other grocery store is over $20. And this is a fun fact. They cut it and butcher it in Australia, but because they wet seal it and then ship it over the ocean, it wet ages and gets even more tender as it ships over here. This stuff is delicious. And if you're worried about the gaminess, rack of lamb is the way to go. And if you're worried about nutritional profile,
yeah, so what happens is people don't like the taste sometimes as gamey. If you do a grass-fed, grass-finished, you're not going to have that extra gamey taste, but the omega 6 to omega 3 ratios on these are off the charts. So if you have regular commercial non-grass-fed type animal products right here, you potentially could have like the marbling of the fat, more of like a diabetic, a pre-diabetic type meat versus this is like an athlete's meat. And so you are going to get something that is a higher quality. And my theory is if you eat healthier animals, you might get healthier too.
Yes, it's almost like eating vegetables grown in nutrient-dense soil. Animals eating nutrient-dense grass from pastures is better than eating GMO grain.
Exactly. So I want to talk about shrimp for a minute. This is wild caught, okay, versus farm raised. There's something very unique about seafood in general, and it's also in shellfish, but you have this high selenium, okay? Now selenium is a mineral to help bind with any mercury that's in there, to drop the mercury levels. And selenium also helps the thyroid. So when you're converting your inactive T4 to T3, it helps the thyroid, especially for like thyroid conditions like Hashimoto's and things like that. But it's also good to help with antioxidants like glutathione. So basically, this is what you want to have to get your selenium versus just doing the Brazil nut. So selenium is very, very important.
Very interesting. I didn't know that. But there's a huge difference between the bag of wild-caught shrimp that Dr. Berg is holding and what the majority of the shrimp are at any grocery store farm raised. And 9 times out of 10, the farm raised is going to be from Southeast Asia, Vietnam here. We talked earlier about wild-caught versus farm-raised salmon. The same issues happen with farm-raised shrimp. The feed, the overcrowding of the pen, the higher omega-6 ratios, the antibiotics needed because the shrimp will get lice. But there's another issue that in Southeast Asia, they employ the slave laboring to do the shrimping business. So for many reasons, especially because we're in the USA and there's so much wild-caught seafood from the Gulf of Mexico, wild-caught for the win.
Absolutely. Okay, if you have a choice between farm-raised, okay, or wild-caught, always go with wild-caught. I mean, tilapia, for example, it's hard to find it wild-caught. I don't know if
I don't think they have it.
But there's a huge difference in health because you're dealing with these confined animals, these fish that are in this small little space. They feed them food that you don't want to actually, indirectly eat through the fish. So if you have a choice, it's not that much more expensive, is it?
No, it's not. And you have an abundant source of wild-caught mahi, wild-caught Chilean sea bass. So in general, in case you were wondering, is some farm-raised okay? Ideally not.
No, and you just start reading the labels, really observe farm-raised, wild-caught.
Yep, and if you were wondering also, we talked about salmon earlier. That salmon, even though it looked fresh, it's frozen and then thawed, which is fine. So if you want to come to the frozen section here, there's absolutely no difference between this frozen salmon versus the frozen and thawed one over there. So that is it. Dr. Berg and I just did the whole video about meat and seafood here at Costco. If you want to see some more, we're going to do a haul inspired by what on your channel?
We're going to keep that as a surprise.
It's a surprise, but it's coming soon. Check out Dr. Berg's channel, subscribe, like his videos. He's doing great things over there. Bye.